Hello, this is Mr. Zanaletto. Let me get to our beginning of our program here. I was going to go ahead and cover and let you know what trigonometry covers and what discrete covers in our class. Each one is a separate semester, although most students take it both together. It's one of the few classes that's offered as separate. Trigonometry, we cover topics including right triangle ratios, which is like SOHCAHTOA that you've covered before, solving trigonometric equations. That you're going to use some of your Algebra 2 skills you've had. Inverse functions, that's instead of giving it a angle measure and coming up with the ratio that should be, we go the other way. Given a ratio, it tells you the angle measure. And we do deal with both radians and degree measures throughout the course. Identities, that's one of the last topics we usually cover. Laws of sines and cosines is towards the end as well, and we hit it pretty hard. Graphing trigonometric functions, we have a full unit on that. That we're dealing with a lot of transformations that you did cover in Algebra 2. And applying trigonometric techniques to solve real-world problems, we definitely insert some problems where you can see where sine waves or cosine waves or different trig functions can appear as patterns within the real world. Again, looking at this, I think the next slides will help you. Assessments that you have an opportunity to show how you are mastering the material we're teaching you. Normal paper pencil tests or also quizzes are often normal paper pencil. We also have some use of various applications such as MathSpace that we may give an assessment in. And then unit projects is an opportunity for you to show mastery without being under the gun of a test type situation in a classroom. You can go out and create something and be a little more creative, tap into your creative side. I always enjoy those. The MathSpace, Delta Math Informative we use throughout the class, mostly in homework or classwork where we're getting practice opportunities, but also occasionally I like to say MathSpace, and I may go ahead and even use formative a little bit next year in testing, as I plan to this year later on. Back to the trig class, specifically the trig class, we start off reviewing some of the stuff that is trigonometry that you have done in the past in geometry, such as SOHCAHTOA and Pythagorean theorem. Then we get into memorizing the unit circle. This is the first quadrant of the unit circle. There's four quadrants that you need to memorize, but there's some patterns that we will discuss that will make that easy. And then we move on to using that information to find any of the 6 trig functions, their values given an angle measure. And we do the inverse. Given a ratio, what could potential angle measures be that would give you that? Then we move on to another unit, is graphing unit. Again, we do transformations as well as the parent function of each of these. You see here the secant function on your left, tangent in the middle, and the sine wave on the right. We do a lot with sine and cosine because that also gives you your secant and cosecant. So let's move on from here. We do identities to close out that semester. Again, using Algebra 2 skills, and we go ahead and verify certain identities that they give us using these, primarily the quotient, reciprocal, and Pythagorean identities, although we do dive usually into a little bit of the sum and difference and double angle formulas. Those will be given to you at the bottom. The top, you actually do commit to memory. It sounds tough, but it really isn't. Now, discrete math. Again, this is a class that a lot of people don't know what we cover. We have some flexibility here, which is nice. We cover several different topics, not necessarily related, but all math topics that are often not covered in traditional math classes. Network basics and scheduling are a little related to each other, while most of the other topics we cover are separate. The network basics, we talk about different paths, and you have vertices and edges that connect those. Sometimes they have direction, sometimes they don't. We have scheduling, where we try to come up with the most efficient way to schedule an assembly line maybe, or scheduling how you might load a jobs in a copy machine. We have bin packing, which is an interesting topic. And then coloring is usually one of my students' favorites, and that's just map coloring. We actually break out colored pencils, and it's a little therapeutic, relaxing, as well as it does have a math application. So, and that you'll see. And then logic is something that you've covered in geometry, but you not necessarily covered truth tables, but we might dive into a little bit of that, just reviewing some of the stuff that you already have covered, but a little deeper dive. Voting is always something interesting. It's a key to our democracy, and something that it would be of interest. And they're starting to experiment with some of the different type of voting practices that throughout the country: board account, Condorcet method, weighted voting, ordering your vote, prioritizing your vote. Those things we'll cover. Fair division, that's something that if you're dividing up belongings amongst you and a friend, maybe siblings are dividing things up, maybe you're just dividing up dessert. This could give you some ways to make everybody feel like it's fair. And then the last unit that we often will cover is college placement prep. And that's something that I'm always open to maybe diving deeper into some of the other stuff and not having it, but I do think a lot of students benefit from it, trying to prep themselves for the college placement test so they don't have to take math classes that they already have. A lot of times schools will make you go back and take Algebra 2 because you didn't show that you had mastered that material well enough. Or maybe go back and go as far back as Algebra 1 or geometry because you didn't really understand it. And it may not be counting towards your degree, but you have to take those because they believe you don't have the prerequisite knowledge to take the courses that are required for your class, your majors. So that's it really for us today. Please feel free to stop by room 265 and ask me if you have any questions about this. My name again is Mr. Zanaletto, and I'll be happy to discuss with you our courses. Thank you. Take care.